Turn on. Oops, sorry. Need to change that. Akala ko ako lang mag-isa. All right.
Okay.
For a few more minutes.
I did read your message na, sir.
Okay. Sige. Yeah. Sorry. It took me some time. I also had to do other things.
It's okay. As a matter of fact, I also took my break also. You know, it's so stressful to think on to keep on worrying something that is not worth worrying. And then also I'm also fighting consistent coughing din also. I hope it's not COVID-19. And
Yeah, hopefully.
I hope it's not. Kasi since yesterday I was consistently coughing. And ano pa ba? Yeah, I'm also busy also with we're recording pala, no? I hope you didn't record pa.
Very automatic siya eh. But it's okay, no worries.
Yeah, I'm also I'll chat it na lang.
Sige. Sige, you're a bit embarrassed. I'm not even sure if others even watch the recording. So it's okay. Let me just prepare the slide, the deck. We'll start in 1 minute. I hope other people can. Yeah. Yeah, who knows? No? I don't think we will have face-to-face classes next semester. No? Kasi they just started the vaccinations for adolescents and young. Well, most of your adults na, so probably, but it depends. It really depends. Maybe fourth year. I think I've gotten emails from the administration saying we might start doing it next school year, but I haven't heard about next sem. No? It might be too short notice. It depends. It really depends on them. Or most likely it will be optional. Kasi it would involve a lot of adjustments from everyone face to face. So, yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, nothing beats live, nothing beats live classes talaga. But it is what it is.
Wait lang ha. I mean, to Marco and Nash also was also reading like where I'm coming from with why I don't want it optional is because I wanna leave my home. Okay, so parang yun lang. Baka you'll feel na parang it's insensitive or parang it's very so that's where I'm coming from na why I don't want it, why I want it mandatory. Like yeah.
I understand. All right. Sige. And thanks. No, there's 3 of you. That's actually better than 2 weeks ago. There was 3 of us, 2 of you, and me. No, so sige. But thank you for joining. I hope the others can also join later. No, this will not probably be a long session. No? Probably will be done in an hour or hour 15. Kasi nga, again, as I keep mentioning, I expect most of you to learn more from Canvas, right? And these serve as summaries, no, of what you're reading. In the past, no, some students use this as their main learning piece, no, or learning source, tapos supplement na lang with Canvas. So it's your choice how you want to approach this. But thank you again for being here. No? So there's 4 of us now, 4 of you now, so that's good. Okay, announcements, reminders. So tonight, in terms of a recap, I will be finishing Module 4. But if you're not done with Module 4, my suggested pace is to finish that until November 20 or so. And then Module 5, which is really, really short, but really for me, that's why I reserve it at the end. For me, it's kind of inspiring as well. It covered in the last 2 weeks of the SEM. And we will have 1 or 2 more synchronous sessions after this. And then, as most of you probably have read, next week we won't have classes. we will have, I converted the class into consultation sessions. So I drew up I created a Google Doc for as a sign up sheet. I think only one group has signed up so far. So I hope there will be more. But I mean, again, it's optional. No? So if you guys don't want, no, that's fine. No? But again, remember the deadline is homework two. Of homework two is November 22, 11:59. So ask me anything about during that consultation. If you want to give me a short summary of what you have so far or ask me for some more tips, guidance, by all means. I'll post module 4 by November 19. And then if you missed if you weren't able to view the recording or you weren't here, I think Taimon was the only one here last time, no, among the four of you. I discussed some useful guidance tips on the final integrated output and for your online area engagements. So you can refer to that. Ask me if you have questions lang, I'll let you know. If you're looking for some good resources, I mean, for economic, business news, etc., a good resource would be Arrancada Philippines. My office supported the American Chamber of Commerce previously, and up to now, no. And the Joint Foreign Chambers actually has a website for business and economic news and updates. No. There's a search function here. If you go to the website, if you're looking for create, rice tarification, of course, that's it's not only the perspective of the foreign chambers, but it's also they compile different viewpoints. But of course, feel free, and I encourage you to consult other sources as well. But this is just a good source. And if you want, no, if you want a daily digest, no, of some useful economic and business news, no? They do this every day except Sundays. They send you an email midday or end of the day. You can just subscribe using this link that I pasted here. So very useful source because they scour through the major dailies, no, and then they paste the links, no, for useful economic and business. And then since we're going to talk about micro, small, and medium enterprises, we call this, you may be interested, November 19 to, November 15 to 19, there is this, I think it's the second or the third Philippine Startup Week. It's virtual this year again, just like last year. No? If you are interested, there are a lot of different sessions, general sessions, side events, etc. You can register. There's a link for that. You can just refer back to this deck naman, no, for the links. But you can note that down. There's this Philippine Startup Week 2021. Two of the projects that I'm involved with at USAID are actually launching initiatives, no, in two separate sessions. Maraming sessions to. So if you're interested in the startup world, MSMEs might learn something here. Social enterprises, I'm sure, madami rin yan. Yeah, so just as an announcement. Then, a very important news today, no, because usually what happens is the Philippine Statistics Authority, they compute quarterly GDP figures and they release that a month after the end of the quarter. So this just came in today. They just published this today through PSA is technically under NEDA. They're an attached agency of NEDA. So NEDA and PSA did the press conference here. No? So the good thing is, good news, GDP, despite the lockdown in August, no, GDP in the third quarter, which is July, August, and September, grew by 77.1%. So it's very good, no? Since we're on our way to recovery. Of course, it went a bit lower kasi medyo weird figure yung last quarter, 12%. So parang it's just correcting itself in terms of trends. So that's good because the forecasts of the economic experts, no, they were sorry, I didn't start my video. No, I forgot. Sorry, where was I? So yeah, it was good because the median or average forecast of all the economic experts put GDP to be around 4.8 or less than 5%. So this was a surprise, a pleasant surprise. So again, remember there are three major economic sectors: no? Industry and services. So I copied this from the PSA link, PSA press release in their website. If you go to the PSA website, the first story there will be this. So industry and services grew by 7.9%. Industry, 7.9, services 8.2, agri, forestry, and fishing unfortunately contracted. Negative siya, negative growth. Because again of the Africa swine flu phenomenon. Kasi if you look at I looked at the agriculture figures, itong sector lang na to. Livestock contracted by 15%. Talagang ano. And crops actually contracted by 0.2 because of the typhoons. So sayang, no? Sayang talaga. We could have grown more, no, if it were not for the African swine fever and the typhoons. On the demand side, ito yung sinasabi natin, C plus I plus G plus NX. No? So the C part, the consumption, grew by 7.1, which is good. No? More people are spending, going out, both private citizens and businesses. No? Gross capital formation, again, that's the I part, no? The investment, the durable equipment, the inventories, etc., which is good. No? This is good. It increased by 22%, mataas. No? Government spending grew by 13.6%. Exports naman grew also by 9% and imports 13.2%. Why does the government consider increases in imports good? Because actually majority, if you look at the data and the reality, many of the things we export have high import content. So for example, it's a misnomer that we export a lot of semiconductors. No? The thing is we import the materials, assembly lang tayo, and then we export. So we don't really create, we just assemble the semiconductors. So if imports are high, it means that exports most likely will also be high. We just wanted to share this with you guys, no? Because this is a good sort of summary of some of the things we've been discussing before. And this is a live, very, very mainit-init pa, no? Very, very fresh news. The press conference happened at 11 or 10 a.m. this morning. So bagong-bago lang. Okay, any questions so far before we go with the last two topics for Module 4?
None from me, sir.
All right. Sige. Thanks, Nash. All right. So outline for today tonight, we will be finishing Module 4, Population and Demography and MSME Development. These are the last two parts of your Module 4 in Canvas. All right. I don't know if some of you have covered this already. I think so naman. There's 5 of you. No? Sorry to put all 5 of you on the spot, but if you want to help each other out, because I usually like the class to be more interactive, but okay lang if you're not familiar yet with the topic. Pero can anyone tell me what the Malthusian theory is? If you remember from Canvas or you just learned it from some other source or class? Anyone? Or should I go ahead and cover this? Sige, ako na lang muna. Alright. So, the Malthusian theory is this. You look at the right side. Ayan. So, Malthus, sorry, I'm trying to adjust my settings here. Ayan. So, there was a guy named Malthus in the, I think this was in the 19th or 20th century. 19th century, no? He was a bit worried, no? Sabi niya kasi, what if um, the speed at which the population expands or grows, no? What if there becomes a point where the production, where it surpasses, no, the production of food, no, leading to what he calls the Malthusian catastrophe, no? Parang there's gonna be famine because too much population. The food production cannot keep up. But since there's technological progress, no, a lot of science has gone behind the recent agriculture production. It's largely been debunked. Famine and inequality happens not because supply is insufficient. It's that supply or food, for that matter, is not equally distributed or accessed by people. So it has largely been debunked. Production of food can grow and has been shown to have grown exponentially. So that has been, I mean, this is like one of the basic myths when people study population and demography. So that's the Malthusian theory. So don't believe in that. It's not about, when we study population and demography, it's not about total population surpassing food production. It's not that. It's really more about the distribution. And we'll learn that later, a little bit later. So some key trends, no? When you say demography, it only means the study of population statistics and trends. It's a fancy term for it. So right now, no, we are more than 100 million. So it's cool, no? Yung PopCom, Commission on Population, has real-time projections, no, in their website. So if you go there, it's like the number changes every few seconds to sort of mimic the actual live population. No? May nanganganak somewhere in the Philippines again. So it keeps on adding. It keeps on changing. The good thing is the growth rate in the Philippines in recent years has actually declined. Dati kasi mga 3, ganun. So it was really, you're really growing super fast. And as you would expect, no, it's really NCR as the magnet, no? Metro Manila and the surrounding areas with the highest populations. That's not a surprise. And starting in 2015, we've reached a tipping point, no, as demographers would say. No? More than 50% of the population has been living in urban areas. So we are now an urbanized country, technically speaking. And if you see this chart here, no, if you will instantly notice it's heavy at the bottom. It's a young population. The youth more or less account for 20%. Youth is like 15 to 30, 35. Sometimes some organizations define the youth range from up to 35. And a third, no, are below 15 years old, and many, more than 60% are working age. And this is an important phenomenon when we discuss the demographic dividend that people have been talking about since a few years ago. So just for your information, no, in terms of data source, no, this is based on the Census of Population and Housing. So the PSA, again, PSA kasi is an amalgamation of the 4 different statistical or more, no, different statistical agencies. They basically merged all of them together. Dati kasi it was NSO, NSCB, Bureau of Agri-Stats, and I think even SR, iba-iba. So now it's all done under one umbrella, which is the Philippine Statistics Authority. Dati kasi NSO. So the census of population is housing by law is supposed to be done at least every 10 years. So the last one was in 2020. The next one will be 2030. No? But in most recent decades, no, they did a mid-decade census, which is half. So 2025, expect another round to be done. So that's a census. No? Again, the difference between a census and a survey. Census is it tries to cover the entire population, not just a sample. It's not a survey. So this is based on real comprehensive counts. That's why it's expensive as well. Can anyone tell me in a nutshell, although it might be a bit complex for you guys, can anyone tell me what the demographic dividend is all about? Anyone?
Sir, is that the ano, sir? Is that the, wait, dividend, is that the division of the population, like or the one with the young growing and young growing, or the orientation of the
The second
population?
one. The second one.
Oh, the young?
Yeah, having a large young working population.
Yeah, okay. Like what we have in the Philippines or Indonesia. Oh, yeah.
You're right. So you're on the right track, no? Dagdagan natin yan time. You're on the right track. So let me explain this a bit more, no? Sometimes it's a bit complex to. It's easy enough to understand. No? Sometimes it's just hard to explain it well, to articulate it. No? So the demographic dividend is all about dependency. Actually, if you forget anything else when we talk about population and demography, don't forget the concept of dependency, because a lot of the concepts in population studies boils down to dependency. The demographic dividend is the potential for economic prosperity or growth, no, as a result of a more what they call optimal population structure. This is what's happening right now in the Philippines. As Taiman was saying, in the Philippines, everyone will say, oh, we are now in a demographic sweet spot. No? We will reap a demographic dividend. Kasi dividend is parang bonanza. You're reaping something, you're getting something really good, money or something. In this case, parang sinasabi na, the population structure is optimal right now, therefore that will lead to better economic outcomes. Bakit? So here's what they're saying. What they're saying is less people are being born and less people are dying. So if you have less, let's take them one by one. So if you have less people being born, kunyari, I have just one kid instead of 5. Then it's not a burden. It's not too burdensome for me. Same thing, no, mortality, no, less adults dying prematurely. No? So what happens is, and they saw this in the Philippines, no, as you saw here, more than 60% are working age population. There's a large workforce, then less dependents, no? Less dependents kasi konting pinapanganak, konting namamatay. Therefore, people can spend more on other things, no? The large workforce will boost economic growth, no? Less dependence kasi. And that's even good for government because instead of supporting, let's say, more kids, no, more children, they will support less children. So less resources that need to be, so it all boils down to dependency. The theory here is you have a large workforce, um, they are saving money, which they can use to travel, they can use for other things, instead of needing to take care of additional kids. Diba? Kasi there are less dependents. So that's the important thing. What happens is because of that, you have a workforce that can support itself, hindi siya nangangailangan ng government support, etc., etc. It's much better for private citizens, more manageable finances, they can spend more, good for the economy, and even for government, no? They can spend on other things rather than welfare. Less school buildings to build, less clinics to build, etc., etc. That's the theory. Because large population, less dependence, good for the economy. And everyone, and you have the working age population actually working. There's a large workforce. But there is a problem here, no? It becomes a demographic dividend. The potential is realized only if the working age population or the bulk of the population bulge is actually productive. It goes back to our lesson on human capital. Kasi the theory here is, less children, less people dying, more working age population. The assumption in theory is, they can work, they can earn money, and the money that they earn, they don't have to spend for more children. No? Kulang sa burden. But the problem is, are they skilled? Are they, did they finish school? Are they nourished sufficiently for them to be productive? Kasi they might be potentially productive, pero if the quality of their skills is not good, then they will just be a burden. No? You're lessening the burden by having less kids, pero if they're unemployed, they have very low-paying jobs because hindi nga nakatapos ng school, then they also become a burden. So this will only happen if the bulk of the population, which is this, is productive. They have high human capital. But the problem in the Philippines is unemployment among the youth, among this, is actually high. It's twice the national unemployment rate. In fact, in 2016, 22% of the youth were not employed and were not even studying. So they cannot they cannot contribute to a large workforce. Now, instead of the dependency ratio being good, it effectively goes up if the working age people are not productive. So again, just to recap, sorry if it's a bit confusing, but you can refer back to Canvas here. It's the assumption is you have less kids being born, you have a large working age population. The theory is it's an economic boon because they have money for themselves, they can buy things, and they don't have to suffer and be poor taking care of 5, 10 children. And then government itself doesn't have to incur loans because there are less dependents. But the problem is if that large workforce or potential workforce is not even productive, then they themselves also become dependents. No? You minimize dependency on one leg, but then the dependency increases on the other because hindi mataas yung human capital of that working class population. This one. Sorry. This one. They have to be productive for this to happen for the demographic dividend to reap rewards. Yun ay sinasabi. So again, the important thing to remember when we talk about population dynamics is dependency. More kids, most likely, in general, may increase the burden because they are dependents. No? Even if you're capable of working, but you are not skilled enough, nourished enough, you can also be a burden. You don't necessarily contribute as much to the country or to the economy. Here's another important thing, no? And here you will see, no, this might clarify your understanding of the dependency dynamic when you talk about population dynamics. Again, imagine if you are Henry C. or Ayala, no? You can have 100 kids. You'll still be comfortable. But the problem is, if you look at the data, no, ironically, and again, this speaks about dependency, no, and capability to absorb or to manage more children. It's actually those who have fewer resources having larger family sizes. So again, it's all about dependency burden. Unfortunately, in the Philippines, those who are to have lower incomes, kita nyo, no? You can divide the income classes by these segments, no? Poor, lower income, lower middle, etc., etc. No? It's a very obvious trend, no? The more educated and the richer families are, the less kids they have. The poorer, those na nga who have fewer resources, they tend to have larger family sizes. Hence, there is greater dependency burden. No? So sometimes in the macro sense, no, in the country level, para manageable naman. Pero no, you have to look behind the numbers. No? Look closely. Actually, it is unmanageable if you look at the distribution. Diba? So here, this is just the same graph as this. No? It's just dependency ratio. No? Parang how many dependents rely on the working age population. Dependents lang naman are defined by kids or elderly. So it's the dependents, kids plus elderly divided by the working age population. So yun, no? Kitang-kita. So what do we do? Sorry, just as an additional information for all of you. And there's a reason for this, especially in the rural areas. Kasi we keep wondering, parang, oh, they're poor na nga. They still continue to have children. No? There are two major reasons why this is happening. In the rural areas, no, one of the main reasons is kids actually, even at a young age, so they can help out in the farms. In the urban areas and even in the rural areas also, it's also the lack of know-how when it comes to good family planning practices. No? Or sometimes, no, in tandem with conservative values. No? Parang bawal sa church yan. So, bahala na. Bahala na si Batman. So what do we do? No? Some are saying, no, we have to control the population. No? Kailangan limited to 3 kids. So the question is, do we actually go the way of China now, 1-child policy or 2-child policy, or no? The answer is no. Hindi naman. I mean, well, one, obviously that's against human rights. No? What they're saying is to manage the population better. It's not so much about controlling or even incentivizing. It's actually to support the achievement of desired family sizes or fertility rates. So this is a very important table, no, when it comes to population issues. So in 2013, no, based on the NDHS National Demographic and Health Survey, they actually asked, no, this column, ito na lang, this column is based on surveys lang naman to, no? This is the average desired fertility rate or family size. No? Sorry, desired number of kids. Fertility rate lang naman is number of kids, to simplify. This column is that, the desired number of kids. Ito naman, the actual number of kids that they, or offspring that they produced or that they had. So it's funny, no? And education can be correlated, no, highly correlated with income class. Usually those who are college graduates and beyond, no, in general, no, of course there are outliers, are more wealthy than the rest. So you will see here, no, ito na lang, let's focus on the wealth, the income classes. The poorest populations, no, wanted only 3.3 on average. 3 kids, sabihin mo na. But they end up, maybe through lack of know-how, family planning, or in the rural areas, more kids for other reasons as well. They actually surpassed it by 2. But they actually wanted only 3. Then you go further down, no? The second poorest wanted 2, between 2 to 3 lang, and they had almost 4 kids. So you go on and on until the highest 2 income classes, more or less, they achieve their desired family size. So sinasabi nila, it's not about controlling population, but providing support, no, to families to achieve this, so that they don't end up with unwanted pregnancies. Kasi that's unwanted pregnancy because you were gunning for, on average, no, you were gunning for 3, then you end up with 5 kids. And there are a lot of variables. Again, lack of know-how for in terms of family planning, or sometimes it's intentional, or religious belief, etc., etc. So government is, based on the studies, not just government, but even non-government organizations, it's better if you don't become like authoritarian and say, oh, bawal na, only 2 kids. No, it's just guiding, providing support, especially for you guys who are tackling the Responsible Parenthood Act, no, or bill. No? It's better not to control, but to minimize the burden, because in the first place, they don't want naman too much of a burden. It just so happened that they end up with this, no? Even if they only wanted this. So again, those who have less end up with more kids, which is problematic kasi now I married late. No? I have a toddler who's almost 3 years old. No? And magastos. No? I can't imagine if I have 5 kids. And especially if, say, a family is earning minimum wage or below, all the more that it's really a burden. So the point is not to control fertility rates, no, stopping or forcing people to have only 2 or 3 kids or 1 kid, no? But rather support them to achieve their desired family size. So that's in a micro level. No? So population is not about control, but it's really all about minimizing dependency, minimizing the burden, and actually going by the figures in the Philippines, it can be all about just trying to realize, no? Make this happen and not this. On the macro, no, Philippine as a whole, no, setting. Again, dependency, no. If there is rapid population growth, the good thing is it has gone down. Probably because of the previous administration and continued until this present administration, there was this push, no, to really pursue the reproductive health law. So, because if the population grows too fast, no, there is dependency. The government would need to spend a lot for schools, for health services that are free. No? Public education naman kasi is free. No? And it also puts pressure on employment kasi if a kid born 10 years ago would be working now in less than 10 years. So when he reaches working age, that kid would need a job. So eventually, it puts pressure on employment. This is combined with the first bullet. No? It puts pressure on social services and food security. We need to feed all of those. Again, it's not a matter of globally speaking. It's not a matter of lack of food. It's access to food, no? Whether that's domestic or from overseas. This is a special, an important issue as well. No? That's very relevant for you guys. No? This came out in the news last year, pa to, no? And this is part of your, this is one of the discussion boards in your campus. So PopBomb, actually, Commission on Population, said teen pregnancy is much worse pala. They were observing, no, every week, 40 to 50 Filipino kids, no, age 10 to 14 years old, no, not even 15, give birth every week. That's alarming. That's alarming. Kasi, yun nga again, when you talk about population, it's all about dependency. Imagine 8 dependent, kasi 10 to 14, that those kids are not, if I can call them kids, those kids are not yet working. So the dependent gives birth to another dependent. So imagine that family, especially if that's a poor family, no, they double the burden. So the dependent breeds a dependent. It just intensifies the dependency in that family. So again, it's all about dependency. I just wanted us to consider this. No, I provided a link to the population plan or program of the government. There are only 3 things here. No? Actually, 2. No? If you think about it, 2 important things here. No? They wanted couples again to achieve their desired number and spacing of children. Because if you look at the data, no, it's manageable. If we assume that Filipinos would really achieve their desired family size. So the problem is they're not. So if only, no, that's one important objective. So they are saying that the responsible parenthood act and the different activities can lead to that. And teenage pregnancy as well, as we covered, are addressed. Teenage pregnancy is addressed. Sorry. And then, of course, you would want that the institutions are ready to provide the support needed to these groups, no? To couples, good family planning, adolescents to prevent teenage pregnancy, etc. So hopefully the institutions, national and local governments, can provide the needed services for the couples and the adolescents. So that's population in a nutshell. If you forget everything else, it boils down to dependency. All right, just stop me if you have questions. So I will just keep going. So the last part of Module 4 is all about MSME development and entrepreneurship. MSME stands for micro, small, and medium enterprises. So the table here, no, again, based on PSA data, shows the distribution of firms, no, by size. So micro, small, medium. So 88% of the businesses in the Philippines are micro. Micro means ito, I have a definition for you. 1 to 9 employees. Yan yung mga, let's say, mga milk tea shops, for example. Small, 10 to 99, or barber shops. Small, restaurants or even small hotels. Medium, yan, and then large, 200 and above employees. So it can be by employment, or by asset size. So most are micro, followed by small, which is 10%. Medium and large only account for 0.5% each. In terms of the number, no? In terms of the number. So micro and small account for 99% already. 99.5% if you include the medium ones. Usually they're lumped, no? SMEs, pero ako I treat micro and small. I treat micro different from small and medium. So they have their own categories talaga. Sometimes the interventions are also different. Pero by employment, kasi nga, of course, do the math. By employment, the total number of micro establishments only account for less than 30% of total employment. Small, likewise, no. The large corporations, etc., combined, no, for the lion's share of employment. Pero this is still significant. More than half of employment is generated by micro and small and medium, 2/3 or 63%. And 37% of total economic output. So the problem really is, and you have a lot of literature saying labor productivity is really bad. Meaning, a lot of these micro, small, yung mga nakikita nyo na very small mom and pop shops, they're not super productive, meaning they don't produce a lot of goods and services or high value services. Most MSMEs operate in low productivity services, mga tindahan, so yes, sari-sari stores are good examples, small grocery stores, bakery, food court, etc., etc. And most jobs actually are informal and vulnerable to poverty. Ang mga vendors that you see, those are So in many countries kasi micro doesn't mean poor or low productivity. Sometimes they are startups, tech startups, no, with 5 or 10 employees only. So we are studying this because one, you guys are management students, and most of you would want to have your own businesses eventually, or in your 4th year, I think you will also be creating your own businesses under JG Song. And it is a significant chunk of the country, MSMEs, if ever you guys will participate in this sector. And we'll go to the issues later on. Facing that MSMEs face. So what are some of the problems by this sector, by the micro, small, and medium enterprise? Number one is access to finance. When you say access to finance, that typically means loans. Like, I am a small business. I want to get a loan from the bank to expand my business. As you learn naman sa accounting class niyo, sometimes businesses, especially in the beginning, or if you have a finance class, you would need to incur debts to kickstart your business. It is only after some time that you really earn to pay back your debts. So, or if you want to expand, you need additional capital for that, which is usually done through loans. The problem is many banks are risk averse. They are more friendly to larger ones, pero sometimes they don't want to lend to micro MSMEs, especially micro and small. Kasi walang collateral, or they don't have a good track record, or sometimes, and many times, they don't have solid business plans. You will be learning in your 4th year, if they haven't changed the curriculum, you will be learning how to do business plans. Pero many MSMEs don't even know how to do business plans. So if I'm a bank, I don't see a good business plan. Sometimes I'll just say, you're too risky for me. I'm not sure you'll be able to repay me. This is a big issue, access to finance. Many MSMEs. That's why for many development partners like NGOs or even us at USAID, part of it really is helping MSMEs do better business plans or sometimes guaranteeing the loans. No? Parang we'll tell the banks, o sige, pahiramin mo yan, take a risk. If they don't pay back, we will absorb part of the loan. This is really one of the common barriers, especially during the pandemic, all the more. During the pandemic kasi, I think I have a slide there. No? What happened was a lot of lockdowns happened. They needed capital to be liquid, but at the same time, the banks were more scared. No? So talagang double whammy. I think we discussed this in one class 2 or 3 sessions ago. Part of the problems of MSMEs is really facing government bureaucracy. The problem is sometimes people, and it's all about government bureaucracy because it's hard to do business in the Philippines. There is an annual World Bank report that sort of ranks the countries. For a business to even just start operating, to get a permit, to build the shop, or to get a permit to start operating from the mayor, it takes a long, long time. There is just huge government bureaucracy. The Philippines has made some strides, no? Pero it still needs improvement. So imagine if you're a small business, it will take you months, no, for you to get the necessary permits. Sayang oras. It is a disincentive business. Access to market, no? Sometimes, as I keep telling you, sometimes MSMEs, they don't know how to sell, who to sell to. So kulang sa marketing. No? Sometimes they think their product is good, pero they don't know how to expand their areas. No? I think in some of your NSTP Bikis areas, no, this is a problem. No? They have good products, but it's hard for them to really sell their goods, access to market. Productivity and efficiency, no, especially in the rural side, no, sometimes mano-mano instead of machineries. No? As we covered in Harold Domar, no, sometimes, especially when you're into processing, technology is important. If it's mano-mano, then you will just lose out to your competitors. You have no hope or no success in the long run. And vulnerability to shocks. Later on, I have slides. MSMEs bore the brunt, especially the micro and small ones, bore the brunt of the pandemic's effects, yung lockdowns. Kasi the big ones, they can close for a long time. No? Pero yung mga sometimes they live day by day, no? Yung sales nila. So shocks is a catch-all term used by economists or practitioners to define like external things, no? Like weather events like typhoons, pandemics, climate change, disaster, etc. So they are more vulnerable than the larger corporations. So for your information, and this is on Canvas, it's an easy read. No? The current government came out with an MSME development plan. So Mon Lopez, who I admire, no? He's not your typical government bureaucrat, no? Very humble, very low-key. No? He keeps trying. No? Of course, there are some missteps, no? But he came from the private sector. Very well-meaning, no hidden agenda, no corruption, allegations, etc. He is one of my favorite cabinet secretaries, and we know each other personally as well. So he has this 7 M's. No? If ever you will be creating your own businesses, no, remember these 7 M's because these are the important ingredients that you will need, no, for you to develop. No? So this is DTI's main mantra since 2016. No? What kinds of support they want to provide to MSMEs. So first is mastery. No. Where do we start? Money muna, number 1, diba? So financing, no? There are government agencies now, no, that provide interest-free loans like the SB Corp, no, etc., or some guarantee corporations that enable financing institutions to take a risk. No? Kasi risk averse yung mga bangko for the most part. Machines, no, as we keep saying, technology, no. The DTI has a program they call shared service facilities. They actually provide in the different regions, no, equipment that people can use to process things. So technology is important. It will improve the yields, no, or the productivity of the operations. If you're talking about Opman, no, machines can optimize. No, if they can afford it, they can optimize production. Markets, no, part of DTI's work also is connecting MSMEs, letting them know that there are markets here, no, domestically and then overseas as well. No, you can also export to other countries. So providing tools or platforms for e-commerce, also some infrastructure as well, no, and events, no, trade events, etc., etc. Models, no. So sometimes they run some training seminars, etc., etc. And part of it is inspiring MSMEs and basically showcasing what has worked in other countries, or even in the Philippines, no, so that MSMEs can probably copy some of the things that they did, no, for success, or even modeling after the larger corporations. So Simon Lopez came from RFM before, so he knows what it takes, no, to be successful. Mindset, no? Kasi sometimes utak pwede na yung mga businesses. But it's kind of leveling up, making MSMEs more ambitious, na kaya mo yan, you can come up with better products, you can actually sell abroad even. No? And then last is mastery and mentoring. No? So this go hand in hand. No? So mentoring is they provide some successful, no, big brother approach. No, successful enterprises will mentor the fledgling ones, no, or the younger ones, the newbies, no, and there can be some formal training programs as well. So these are what DTI, of course. There's so many MSMEs, so DTI can only help so much. No? So this is a good framework. No? Whether DTI is actually adequately providing this, that's a question. No? But remember this framework. It's a good framework even for you. No? If you want to run your own business or establish your own, create your own business eventually, these are the things you will need to be successful. You need a good mentor. You need markets. You need technology if you're into processing. You need a good mindset. You need models as well. Ayun. So part of those 7 things, no, they want improved business climate, as we mentioned earlier, no, simplify processes. No, there is a startup bill, no, which Bam Aquino actually pursued before, no, and it was passed actually. No, they basically wanted to do away with very, very cumbersome bureaucratic government processes. So that's one, no. So make it easier for people. Kasi parang imagine mo, if you have a good idea, you want to create a business, and then government makes it hard for you to even start. Baka you lose hope, wag na lang. So that's bad. Sayang. Because it's good, no? Businesses, encouraging businesses is good because it creates employment, it creates extra money for the country. Access to finance, we keep repeating that, and hopefully yung capacities of people running the business, both the management and even the workers themselves, no, should need to be upskilled. No? Technology, again, and then access to market. So similar things to the 7 M's. These are the main strategies of the MSME development. So if ever in your future career you would be helping enterprises, these are good things to take note of. Or if you will, again, create your own business, these are the good things to think about. And I think the last part of MSMEs is, just wanted to revisit the pandemic. I hope really that we're about to sort of live with the pandemic. No? The numbers right now are really good. No? Really, I'm really hopeful, no? Especially NCR. 88% are fully vaccinated, which is good. I hope some of you or most of you are already vaccinated as well. The problem is it's really the MSMEs, no, that bore the brunt of the pandemic. This is a simple chart, no. Among them, no, at least 2/3 temporarily closed, many permanently closed, no. Tapos a lot of them with limited operations. 2/3 suspended, half of firms, temporary, wholesale retail, no. More layoffs, reduced working hours. So those, parang ano yan eh. It's the same with the population dynamics. No? Those who cannot afford, actually, they bear the brunt of that impact. So government so far, to be fair, no, they actually have provided direct loans to affected MSMEs, some loan moratorium, wag muna kayo magbayad, no? Or defer payments, no, to banks, no, especially government banks, no? And government also guaranteed some of the loans, no? They also provided tax credits, no, for losses, no. They did this, I think, a year ago, no. Parang if you incurred a loss this year, no, during the pandemic, no, the next time you earn income and you pay taxes, net income or profit, you can deduct the loss that you incurred the previous year. So at least that's some good help. And of course, they also provided wage subsidies. No? Kasi the problem is lockdown. If government did not provide wage subsidies, then the workers will just leave you if you're a business owner, no? And look for other things. So at least indirectly, the wage subsidy for affected workers also supported MSMEs indirectly a bit. So that's it. No, I've said a mouthful. Again, these slides, no, these lectures are meant to basically be a recap, no, or an introduction if you haven't covered the material yet on Canvas. And these sessions are supposed to be short lang talaga because again, as you'll notice, no, the module 4 especially is the longest one. It's very chunky on Canvas. It's really the longest one. So it's a lot of material there. I just tried to summarize it quickly, no? But I really want you and I urge you to go through the materials. There are very interesting data there and materials. So I hope you take the time. And again, reminder, please continue answering the discussion boards. I will close all the discussion boards at the end of the semester. I'll let you know of the exact date, no? But don't wait, no, until the last minute. Para lang just to comply. I know naman because I read them. I will know naman if you're just answering for the sake of answering. I won't necessarily give you full credit for that. Remember, 20% of your grade is all about online participation. And the bulk of it is from your answers in the discussion boards. Yeah. All right. Any questions? So much information.
I'm good.
I think everyone is good. So thank you. Again, if your group would still want to consult with me next week, feel free. No, the sign-up sheet is there. If you don't fill that out by Monday next week, I will close it. And I will assume that your group does not want to consult with me. As I keep mentioning, I'm sorry, I have to be strict, no? I will not have any other consultation dates for homework too. Of course, I'm still open for a consultation for other things. Let's say on a Friday for other things, but not homework too. Because I have allotted uh, next week's session. Kasi there is no excuse naman. Kasi this is supposed to be our regular class. So, I don't see any reason why you cannot make it. But again, it's optional. So it's really up to you. Some groups in the past, they consulted with me. No, they were going this direction. I actually pointed them to nadidiscourage na sila. But I actually provided some clues to help them out. So it made their paper better. Yun lang. All right. I hope to see most of you next week. If not, let's see each other on the 23rd. All right. Many thanks again for joining. Have a good rest of the evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Ask question lang after.
Sure, sige. Let me just stop the recording. Sige. Time on. The rest can leave now. Let me just see if I can stop the recording. Kasi automatic to the way I've done it. And anyway. Sige. Timon, can we leave the room and then join again?
Sure. Let's go.
Sige. Sige.